So good morning, everyone. Today I will be discussing with Christoph Simmchen from one of the co-founders of the Safe, recently rebranded, previously known as the Gnosis Safe, go-to solution for the multi-sig wallet on the Ethereum ecosystem. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marek.
Fantastic. I mean, maybe to start off, can you take us a bit through your journey in the crypto, into the Gnosis, and how you ended up at the Safe?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a lawyer by background. Joined the ecosystem as an investor in 2015, and after finishing university, I was looking for a PhD topic, and then I was one of the first academics who were writing about the intersection of law and blockchain technology. And while also being in Oxford, I was becoming aware of the Gnosis token sale back in April 2017, and got interviewed by Friederike, and joined the team as one of the earliest employees. And so we're helping the founders team to scale Gnosis to its current size before the spin-offs, and have always been working very closely with the product team on Safe. And this is where it was more or less a natural fit that we were aligning on, working together also in the future after the spin-off.
That's awesome. And what was the motivation why you decided to join the crypto and explore this intersection between the legal and the new financial world that we are building?
Yeah, I was having a specialization or a focus in corporate and capital markets law, and back in the days there was also this incident with the DAO, and I was writing one of the first articles about the legal nature of a DAO, where's a DAO based, and just got involved compared to traditional organizations or capital market activities, and then I was on the hook. I was addicted to all this kind of topics and meeting super smart people, and it was I was in the rabbit hole.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Maybe so. Today, I would like to discuss with you probably the three topics. One, discuss a bit about the Safe itself, then get into a bit of the transaction, why have we decided to do the transaction, and then discuss a bit about the outlook, so what the Safe will actually become, and where we are headed. So I think these three topics would be great to explore with you. So can we start with the one, can you tell us, what is Safe, why is it useful? I mean, everybody knows it, it's a household name, especially in the crypto. Can you tell us, what is it and why people use it, or also who is using it?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a quickie question, and I don't want to use all of our time to explain it, because also the Safe is it's a smart contract account standard, and so also what we see it is it's a user case and user group agnostic middleware to actually self-custody your assets, and therefore it's a bit tricky regarding the use cases or the user groups, because we are having individuals using the Safe, we are having DAOs, we are having funds using the Safe, we have different kind of assets stored on a Safe. We have NFTs, we have stable coins, we have volatile assets, but in the end it's really about setting very flexible permissions to custody your valuable assets, and just getting up to the dynamics of the markets, because the beauty of the Safe is also its full programmability. You can implement all kind of if-then condition and leverage all benefits of smart contracts.
And so maybe for our readers, or listeners, I think most of them are familiar with the hardware wallets, right? So how is Safe different? Because in some sense it saves or serves the same purpose. It's securing the assets that people have in their self-custody.
Yeah.
So how is it different to either using a MetaMask or using a hardware wallet such as Ledger or Trezor?
Yeah. So the main difference is that Safe is overcoming the limitations of externally owned accounts or private keys, and as such it's also one level above like Ledger or MetaMask, because like you could use a Ledger or MetaMask as a signer within a safe. But the beauty is especially that you can implement all kind of like access schemes and role models and say like people are just have limitations for transactions. They are just allowed to transfer specific assets via working hours, and you could just whitelist specific protocols. So you can way more like having like a custody setup for your own use case and not being like just limited to this kind of like all or nothing what like MetaMask or Ledger are offering.
That's very clear and like very useful. Like I see like very clearly a use case for like organizations, right? Like you are saying that there is different roles that can be set up within the organization, even budgets maybe for different ones, and like how they will be accessing the funds, and like what time, what is the approval cycle, etc. Do you also see it as a strong benefit for individuals?
Yes, so the benefit is also like right now, like everyone is also, I would say also everyone is afraid, or like the most harmful sentence in our industry is like be your own bank, because everyone is like afraid of like using your private keys or like your access to your wallets. And with a safe, like you can have like a lot of like more sophisticated security measures when it comes to recovery schemes, having different kind of signing devices to actually make sure you can always stay in control of your funds.
Very good. Can you elaborate like a bit on the recovery, because I think like that's like one of the pain points, especially with the hardware wallets. I think it goes with become your own bank, then you get the seed, then you need to store the seed, and I know it's like people who are cutting up the seed, storing in different locations around the globe. So this is not the most user-friendly way if you go the hardware wallet setup. However, like people say, it's like very secure. Like, what is the approach? Like, how can the recoverability be covered in the safe?
Yeah, I would say like recovery in general is somehow like the holy grail of the industry, because like there are still like solutions that will need to be built. But we are also strong believers in like two potential solutions. Like one is social recovery, where you can just like set up people you are trusting on a personal level, and another one is like we are also strong believer in what we are calling internally hybrid solutions, to actually like collaborate with your bank, and you could say like the bank is only in charge to recover your access to your funds. So they are not being able like to transfer the assets out of your safe, but just to like they are KYCing you, they know like who you are, and if you are losing like your access, you could just go to your bank and say, please reset my access scheme. But this is like something like we want to work on in the future, because recovery right now it's still like very hard.
Yeah, I can see that. Although like this hybrid solution would be like very interesting way, and like would be a new business, but actually like it's taking away the business from the banks as well. So let's see if they will be willing to collaborate.
Right now, there is like a lot of interest in it, because like it's a first point of contact for them, because like they are not required to take like crypto assets on the balance sheet. So they are just like getting like they can learn about the architecture, about the ecosystem, and then they are not like custodians of the funds. And this is like why it's easier for them like to implement such a potential solution and getting like first experience like in the crypto ecosystem.
I see. Like it will be like very like one of the use cases that I will follow closely. And on the potential usage of the safe, I think like another use case within these, it's also inheritance, and like within the crypto. Like is somehow Gnosis looking or enabling inheritance of the funds at the moment?
So what we are right now doing like with the funding round is that we are pivoting from a product focus to an ecosystem focus. And what we want to see, like do ourselves is like we are focusing on like the security and convenience aspects all kind of user groups are having, and then like we want to collaborate with matter experts to build like the specific use cases. And this being said is that we don't want to offer like inheritance services, but rather like integrate other players into our ecosystem and incentivize them to build inheritance solutions on top of a safe.
That's very interesting. Let's talk a bit about the transaction. I mean, it was like quite complex to the typical deals that are in the market. So like it was structured as a spin-off. It's not the first spin-off. There was a DAO vote that was required. Can you maybe like take us through the genesis of the transaction?
Yeah, so then I'm also like taking you back into like the genesis of Gnosis itself, maybe just to spend like 1 or 2 sentences about it. Because,
Let's do it, and I think it's going to be like super useful.
Because when Gnosis was founded back in the days in 2017, they were founded with a mission to enable decentralized prediction markets. But while like fundraising, they were actually realizing that a lot of infrastructure was missing. So, and also like the Safe was developed because Gnosis was required to have a self-custodial setup for their own funds. And this is where like Martin and Stefan incentivized our own developers to develop our own solution. This was like the origin of the Safe. And then over time, Gnosis was also building out more and more infrastructure, like a MEV trading protocol, like CowSwap. We are having like DAO tooling with Zodiac or treasury management with Kapatki. But also like last year, Gnosis did like one of the first token merge with the XDAI chain. And while doing so, they were realizing that like the administrative overhead of having so many products was not like justifying these synergies. And so in order to like focus on Gnosis chain itself, we decided that the products which are having product market fit are supposed to spin out. And while living up to the values of Web3, like it was like a natural decision to say like we will need to have like the approval of the token holders. We will need to go through the Gnosis DAO governance mechanism. We would also need to like transfer a significant amount of like tokens to the Gnosis DAO because these were the ones like bootstrapping the product for the last 5 years. And this is like where all the kind of like complexity is coming from.
Yeah. I think it's like fantastic to see projects that like first find the product market fit and then try to find the structure rather than go other way around. And you know, going back to like you already mentioned that you are trying to create an ecosystem. And it was like the announcement of the Gnosis Safe fundraising round, like recently, received some feedback. I think like we are in the midst of the bear market. We have seen a reduction in the activity from the VC in general in the blockchain space. I think like to levels comparable to a couple of years ago. At the same time, like a massive round that was announced, raising 100 million in these conditions is you know, something to be celebrated. But at the same time, like it received, I think, some question marks from the community on, you know, what the 100 million will be used for.
Yeah. Maybe also like one or 2 cents like on the timing of the announcement, because also like there is this kind of like we are in a bear market when it comes to the apps or the application services, but this is like usually like the time to shine for infrastructure projects. So we also, because like people are like not moving their funds too much, and we were actually getting incoming transactions worth like a couple of billions. So just like last week, like the Chainlink community was moving more than a couple of billions into a safe. Because now, like, it's way more important than ever to keep your assets safe when you're not moving them into the ecosystem. This is like right now, it's like one of our busiest times in terms of like transactions. People are setting up safes, and also when it now comes to the funding, like what we want to do is right now also as part of the spin-off, like we will need to like set up all kind of also like ancillary services. So when it comes to marketing and others, because also back in the days, all the traction the Safe got was all like organic traction. We never did like proper marketing or business development. It was all like just developers being aware that a couple of blue chip projects were storing their assets on the Safe. But right now, like we are here to unlock mass adoption, and we really want to go like out. We want to be more vocal about it. We want to explain the benefits of self custody. We want to explain why a Safe is useful for like DAO tooling, financial institutions, NFT collectors, play to earn, and like to actually achieve this broad mission to like settle the Safe as this kind of like anchor point. Like there's like this is quite heavy on the capital side.
Understand. And maybe can you tell us a bit like during the process of the vote of the community to spin off. Like this was happening in the public nature, right? So like it was a public process within the community to align on the objective to spin off, and then also like align on let's say the allocation or the financial financial allocation that the current community holders will receive from the future from the safe itself. In the traditional world, like this would be very lengthy negotiation and very so to say, prepared and very hotly negotiated, right? Like there will be a lot of back and forths in terms of the valuation, in terms of the allocation, etc. Can you, like, give us insight, like how does this process look like in the Web3, and how easy was to align everybody to get the vote through?
Yeah. I would also say, like, while I'm like a big fan and believer into decentralized governance, it also coming like with a way more like information and coordination costs, because like decentralized governance is super slow. Everyone needs to get up to speed, needs to get involved into the discussion, and this is where we are still like in early days and trying to figure out to which extent should we actually involve the community. And for us, it was like the community was like fine in terms of like saying we are selling like a specific point of like the tokens, but like we are not doing all of like the investor relations or jumping on calls. You cannot have like a community call with every investor. Like just imagine like you jumping on the call with like hundreds of GNO token holders, and everyone want to present their own vision. And this is what we are right now still trying to figure out. Also like what's the right degree of like community involvement and also transparency. But right now, like this was like a good middle way, because everyone was having the opportunity to express their own opinion in the forum. And we were like carefully listening and also like trying to touch base and being involved. And so yeah, but as I said, it's still early days.
And have you so in this like decisioning, like whom to involve, whom not to involve, like so how are you thinking like to structure this decision to the community, and what was the like to what extent have you been involving, let's say, the key decision makers or maybe large GNO holders in the process?
Yeah. So I would also say like the background or the nature of the fundraise was that it was like a strategic raise, because like Gnosis DAO is also well capitalized. It was having enough funds to like pay for future development. But we said like what we right now want to do with the pivot from a product to an ecosystem focus, like we need a lot of matter experts for the specific areas. And therefore, like we were raising like 100 million from over 60 different investors, and like we have been like heavily oversubscribed, and we're like carefully selecting our investors in terms of value add. And we have like some people who have like very infrastructure focused. Like we have a few banks who are bringing institutional focus. We are having big NFT collectors. We are having DAOs which are also like investing into us. And this was like we were rather thinking like who could also take a lead into the future development of the ecosystem. Like this is also why we said like this is a round where we were selling like a token with a governance utility, and always making sure while speaking to investors that like participation in the governance is like a must-have. And we really want to leverage the expertise, the network, also what you said, all kind of like traditional insights or expertise, because also right now what I'm thinking as like a lawyer with a corporate and capital market background, the ecosystem is trying to reinvent a lot of things to a fairly extent. So especially in DAO governance, the capital markets, and it's I'm right now also kind of like happy that like more and more people like from traditional finance are like now joining the ecosystem, trying to educate people and say, guys, like we have decades or centuries of research. Like just like give it a look or give it a chance, and let's see how to apply it also in the Web3 ecosystem.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you touched upon, like there's a DAO, there's a foundation. Like, what are the key stakeholders in the Save ecosystem?
Yeah, so like the foundation, like we decided to set up like a Swiss foundation because like we were doing like a research on global jurisdictions and said this is like one of Gnosis' flagship products, and it needs to be incorporated in a jurisdiction with a very good reputation. And this is why we're deciding for Switzerland. And then we also said like we really want to mirror or like mimic the trust minimized setup of blockchain also into our corporate structure. And this is why we decided like to set up a foundation, because all of the transactions we are doing are like required to be in compliance with our mission. And so with the foundation, like this is just like the first point of contact, for instance, like for public relations, for regulator, and also like overcoming the limitations of DAOs today. So a DAO is not having legal personality. You cannot like store IP rights. The DAO cannot be like a contractual counterpart. Like some forms of like limitation of liability, of taxation of assets. So the key mission for the Safe Ecosystem Foundation is to be like an ancillary body of the DAO, where the DAO is coming to its natural limits, and also being like one of the first point of contacts for institutional partners, for like regulators, to also say we are a legit project and we are trying to make like safe custody less scary. This is way easier to speak on behalf of a foundation than to speak on behalf of a DAO. So regulators are still struggling with the concept of a DAO.
And how are you thinking about like alignment of objectives and like mission across these? Because like in some sense they are like independent entities and like will require some kind of a coordination. How is all this like stitched together so you know the ecosystem can flourish?
Yeah. So also like there's like one, like how we can align on the objective is also like one crucial aspect is that the foundation is like a non-profit organization. So there are like no interest in like just making money outside of the DAO. So we really care about value accrual on the token level. This is like our main aspect. And then like we try to be vocal on the DAO level to the biggest extent possible. So also like we don't want to have like I'm a big like advocate and calling out other people like for shadow governance. Like you don't want to have all kind of like separate codes. Like you really want to try to get everything involved into the community, and like you don't want to be like a pseudo DAO or pseudo decentralized. So we are really trying to be here for the long run and for heavy lifting, and try to activate the community to the biggest extent possible. But also like still struggling to actually see if everyone is participating in governance, because it's like a lot of work.
Like I think like the DAO participation is like a notorious problem across the Web3. I think typically, you know, the democracy and the value of like everybody participating in the decision making is like great, but then I think like all the DAOs, they like reach some kind of a limit, as you are saying, where not everybody has time and capacity to make an educated decision, right? Like about are you like also like thinking about like maybe streamlining the structure somehow, so in terms of like either delegating the votes to some counterparties that are able to, you know, represent you within the DAO structures? Are you thinking about like these like novel approaches to the governance?
Sure, like this is like one of the main topics that are parts of my role. Like the bigger question is also like what's actually the role model for DAO governance, because there are like two opportunities. Like a lot of people are referring to like state governance and democracy, and others are referring to like corporate governance. And so there's like we're still trying to figure out like DAO governance is somewhere in the middle, and we are trying to marry like two concepts, and let's see where the limitations are, because usually like the distinctive line is like wherever there is an asset to govern and fiduciary duties, like you're rather tending to corporate governance, but people are like, especially the crypto ecosystem is rather tending to like state governance due to like the lack of knowledge about this kind of like having a legal or corporate background. And we also try just to educate and like collaborate with a lot of people and see what's the right approach and to which extent can we combine the two concepts.
Yeah, I see. But I think like as soon as like we start going towards the state governance, like we enter discussions how to have a judiciary system, how to have appeal rights, or right for decision, and I think all of these are like needed for some types of governance, but like most of the times I think like the governance in terms of the governance structure of the organizations and corporates is what's needed.
But there are like a lot of discussions like to which extent should you only involve like token holders or also like non-token holders? Do you want to involve everyone like in the same like blockchain ecosystem? And like it's a fairly big discussion right now. Like, so I think like Optimism was one of the ones also with the like citizen house and trying to more like replicate like a state governance or democracy. And we will also like follow this very closely and see how it plays out.
Yeah. And can you maybe tell us a bit about like the team structure? So like how are you organized across the different entities at the moment? What's the plan like in terms of like growing the team?
Yeah. So right now, like, we are 45 people. This is also like a team which was working together like for a couple of years, as this is like a spin-off, and we are pretty tech heavy right now, and like we wanna hire like a lot of like marketing, BD, public relations, investor relations, like finance, content researcher, like basically like ramp up the non-dev departments. And we are structured like we have like a main hub in Berlin. There are like 20 people living and working, and then like we are pretty much decentralized. So we are having people in Switzerland, in Spain, in Portugal, in India. So then all over the globe.
Understand. And who is working in the foundation? Who is working in, or like how are the teams maybe structured in terms of the teams itself and like scattered across the different entities? Like.
Yeah. So in the foundation, like the main goal is basically also to take care of the assets and like being in charge to develop the ecosystem. So while for the Berlin entity, it's like mainly developers. So they are working on the infrastructure, while the foundation is mainly trying to build out the ecosystem, setting up the governance setup, engaging with like potential strategic partners, and now also getting more and more involved into like legislation and public relations, because like also self-custodial setups are one of the major topics right now on a global regulatory scale.
Understand. And like going back to the transaction itself, and so there is, like I think you have found the product market fit. You are having very good traction, and like anytime I look at the number of safes created or volume that is being transacted or assets that are being stored in ETH terms, it shows an upward trend. What was the decision to like have a token, right? Like, couldn't safe exist without the token and just continue be as a product?
Yeah. So sure, like, but we also recognized while thinking about the spin-off that safe became like a critical infrastructure or a backbone of Web3, while having like a single point of failure with a legal entity. So this is why we actually decided like we need to involve the community into the governance to also like remove like this like Gnosis legal entity as a single point of failure. And this is why we said like it shouldn't be just like one entity to decide on the future of the project. And this is why we decided to issue like a governance token and also involve like the power like stakeholders or users more into the future roadmap. So it's rather also like an opportunity to get engaged, but at the same time like also an obligation. Like it's up to the community where we are heading to.
And can you maybe like elaborate a bit like out the monetization, right? Like, are you thinking about monetizing? Are you currently monetizing? How are you working with this concept at the moment?
Yeah, that's a kind of tricky question because I just
I knew it.
I just said like this will be like up to the community discussion. But I would also say like so right now like the safe is considered being a public good. But like I'm sure that the community will come up with like value accrual monetization strategies. But also like this will be a big part of the discussions and one of the longer going discussions, because one part of like the safe's identity is that we are like the core is and will always be open source. So this is why we need to become like creative in order to actually achieve value accrual and not giving other people like the incentive to fork the code. And so like you could just like I don't want to now like say what the community is deciding for, but there are like a lot of opportunities. So you could just think about like monetizing the interface in terms of like referral models or like credit card systems. So you could also think in terms of like classical Web 2 business models of like freemium features. So like the core is open source and free forever, but if you want to have like some security or convenience related features, you could just like need to do some transaction with the safe. So be it paying for it, staking. Like there are like a bunch of opportunities, and the interesting part is also like when we were speaking to investors, like we were bringing on board 60, like just for simplicity, 60 investors. There are at least like 61 opinions on monetization of value accrual. So everyone is having like a different opinion, a different strategy, and this is why I think like this will be one of the most interesting discussions we will see early on, like after setting up the governance system.
So, like, when do you think like this discussion will start to be relevant, time-wise, and do you who do you expect to be driving it? Do you think it will come from the investor side? Do you think it will come from the user side? Maybe is it going to come from the foundation side? Like, because like sometimes all it needed it's the start, right? Yeah. Like, and it gets the ball rolling, and then the discussion will shape up into a conclusion. How do you see this playing out?
I expect this discussion to be one of the first ones in the governance system, because like also this is like the elephant in the room. So and this is like also one of the heaviest decisions to make, because like you really want to align everyone, and this is why I also think like probably like one of the investors will start it, and I also expect like all of the users like trying to react, because we were also receiving like a lot of feedback on Twitter like, hey guys, how do you consider to monetize, like what's your plan? So our community is pretty active when it comes to the reaction. But I think like the proactive part will probably be like one of the professional ones and making like a proper proposal and a proper research. So yeah, let's see. This is just like my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like my expectation was that it will come a bit later. Although like I recognize the fact that it's the elephant in the room. So
yeah, I would say like my bet would be that like two like discussions will be one of the earliest ones, because they will be one of the longest ones. It's value accrual and multi-chain.
Yeah.
So because like in the end, like our mission is to that like every account in Web3 will be having like some relations to a safe account, whether direct or indirect. So and right now we're limited to EVM chains, but like our goal is to be chain agnostic in the future. But right now it was like a matter of resources and focus, and this is where we want to leverage our community investor base, try to speak to matter experts, have discussions, and as being like a security focused project, we are rather moving slower than others, because like we cannot afford like a bug or a mail function. So this is why we want to start early discussions and see, just get our heads around how to roll out a multi-chain.
And so, like, what is the ultimate vision for the safe? Like, you know, like, what will it become? Like, where do you want to drive it?
I would love to see it like as this kind of like invisible infrastructure, which is like becoming the operating system of crypto assets. So also right now we are having our own interface, which is having like a fair amount of transactions. But besides, there are also like over 20 different kind of interfaces for specific use cases or user groups. So there are like retail-focused interfaces, there are like enterprise-focused interfaces, there are interfaces specified like for NFT solutions, and the safe is always like the backbone of it. And we will see like now pivoting from a product focus to an ecosystem focus, we want to incentivize way more interfaces building on top of a safe.
I think also like a big topic in this like will be mobile. So like we have like seen a couple of announcements of either mobile specific made for the Web3, or even like Solana made the announcement of the Saga, which is a phone that even has the keys inside. So like it has a secure enclosure for the keys. Like will you play also like in this space?
Yeah, I think this is also like a difficult like decision, because for me, mobile, there's like a huge opportunity for like retail users. But if you are considering like high value transactions, like it's still web based. Everyone is going to a computer, signing, like you don't want to move millions on a mobile phone. So we definitely also like want to offer like a mobile solution and incentivize like other projects to build on top with a mobile solution. But we also like want to incentivize people to do high value transactions, and they are just feeling more comfortable with having like a web application. And so for us, it's a bit of a stretch when we say like we are user group or use case agnostic, and so we can still try to nudge people to build like a mobile application on top of a safe.
But I think at least in my view, like the wallets will become much more than an application or piece of infrastructure that is allowing you to move assets, but it's also like will become part of your identity. I think it will, like the informations that are in there are quite rich. They will become part of the advertisement tech stack. They will also, like users are going to be use them to like identify themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think like the interactions is not going to be only in the monetary way, but I think it's going to be like a complete underpinning of all the interactions.
Sure.
Sure.
There's like this kind of like what was formerly known as like login with your Google account or whatever will be like login with your wallet in Web3.
Yeah, exactly.
So part of your identity. I definitely agree.
And I think like the core proposition in my view is the safety. So like safety, name is safe. Now, as moving to this like ecosystem type of expansion, right? Like you will have other teams building on top of you. I think you have always taken like very serious approach to engineering, was very diligent in terms of auditing the code base. However, now like you are putting the ball to the ecosystem, so like to other people come and build on top of the safe. How are you going to work within the ecosystem to ensure that the safety, which is I think like the core tenet of who you are, will be upheld?
Yeah, I could also see this like as part of the future development of our governance system, because I definitely also envision like expert groups within the governance, and I could also envision like a IT security committee, which is just doing like audits or like trying to be vocal about it, and also combining this with like curation aspects of like, we could say the token is also being used for curation. You could say like, I doubt this is secure and I want to downvote it or upvote it. So there can also be like a lot of like token incentives to actually become involved into the curation also of the security parts. So because you could say like we want to upvote or make like some modules or apps as a default function, and then you can also have like some comments or discussions around it, and safety and IT security is like one of the main drivers to actually up or downvote an application or module on a safe.
Yes, but I mean, like even like in this sense, like it's going to be like hard to evaluate. I think like whether the application is safe, right? Like even if I have safe tokens, I am not eligible to do the review on the safety.
This is what I said, and also like you're referring to like we will have like different kind of like delegation groups or like subgroups which are matter experts. So I would also say like I'm a lawyer by background, like I'm not a dev guy. So I would just like rather say like I'm delegating to my technical co-founder, which is doing like and making sure like everything is like secure. But we could also imagine if you can have like a more granular delegation. So someone like for investment decisions, someone like for IT security decisions, but this will all be part of the future development of the governance system, and to which extent it's actually like practical to delegate for different kind of decisions to different kind of people or groups.
And I think like privacy is becoming like a big topic. I think currently the crypto is operating in like this pseudo-anonymous way where all the transactions are public and everybody can see what the user has been doing, and some are realizing it and are aware and okay with it. Some I think are mistaking the privacy for pseudo-anonymity or anonymity for the pseudo-anonymity. I think like we will see a shift in the next couple of years to privacy systems that are more closer copying the traditional way the systems have been designed, where only the parties involved in the transactions are able to observe the transactions, or the users are having option to release their transactions or like the record of their transactions to the authorities. Is Safe somehow like thinking about this and accommodate for this shift that we might see in the coming months?
I would say like this might so it's not like part of our like major roadmap, but it might be like playing a role in terms of like multi-chain strategy. If we need to see like if you're rolling out to chains which are optimized for like zero knowledge proof or others, but I wouldn't say like this is part of our like core mission or like areas of expertise or responsibilities.
I understand. So you will go basically on the other chains that support this and play there.
So this is like finally the goal. This is but definitely up to the tech team. Like I'm not aware like what the technical challenges are to roll it out. But ultimately, like we want to say like we want to be everywhere. But it also like there needs to be a way, because right now it's pretty much like optimized for EVM chains. But everyone is aware that like the future is multi-chain.
Yeah. And how are you? I think another big shift that I think we as a industry needs to do is like a simplification of the services. I think currently it's very cumbersome for a new participant to enter and set up their first wallet and go actually into a non-custodial setup. And then even like once you are in it, it's also like not the simplest interactions that you can have. How do you see this trend evolving? And do you think like Save will be uniquely positioned to actually like simplify the user experience to help onboard masses into the crypto?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like crypto nowadays is everything but not simple. So this is also like part of like our main goals. But the answer is also like a little bit more like complicated than just saying like we really want to simplify it, because like I would say the user experience is different also like for instance like for a retail user than for an institutional user. They are expecting different kind of onboarding procedures, different kind of like transaction flows and procedures. So we trying to figure out to come with convenience and simplifications for all use cases and user groups. Also, so right now, like a lot of data you are signing is not human readable. You would need to have like something like you would need to extract data, actually show the signer what he's actually signing. This is something like every user group is facing.
Yeah.
And this is like the area where we want to focus on to work on the heavy lifting matters every user group is facing.
It's going to be exciting. And in terms of, the way I perceive the Gnosis and like I think what you have built as a product is the most secure wallet for the digital organization to use. So like I think every single DAO at the moment is using Gnosis Safe. Or like most of them, if they have a need to actually transact and are having some money or tokens together, then they are most likely using the Gnosis Safe. And then I think in some sense like this is a parallel to a corporate banking account, right? So to what extent do you think that like we will be adding like multiple products into the system? Because like currently it's an account where you can store assets. However, corporates or the DAOs have variety of needs such as payroll, lending, borrowing, and others. Do you see like this ecosystem of the products to be, either being driven by you, or is like something that you see that the DeFi ecosystem will rather provide this like complete corporate services to the DAOs?
I would say like this will come from both sides. So also like there is like right now, especially like when we are here now in Paris for like EthCC, I was seeing like a lot of DAO tooling, which was solving like a lot of problems I was having the last couple of months or years when it comes to like DAO operations. But also like we want to get more involved, and first of all now after executing the spin-off, identify the requirements. What do we need to do? Is there already a solution out there or not? And then also trying to work on it. But this is definitely also part of like one of our future goals to simplify it or also optimize it for enterprises or banks, because I think this will be part of like we see a lot of interest, but they are still struggling to set up like the first custodial setup, and we are also trying to cater this kind of interest.
And do you think that there is going to be some integrations on the corporate side for with the traditional banks?
Yeah, so also like when it comes to the custody of assets and the security, like there are two perspectives. The first one is like just the pure infrastructure, and the second one is like the operational part of it. You're having reportings, you're having compliance features, and our focus right now is just on the infrastructure level. And what we are right now trying to do is also like to collaborate with projects which are like specialized on the operational part. Like also qualified custodians, financial institutions, because this is not our main area of expertise, but we see like a lot of value in terms of if you can unlock such a partnership.
I understand. And maybe thank you very much for the interview. And I'm thinking maybe last question is like, what do you see? What's your outlook on the next 1 to 2 years? Like, what do you think will happen? What are maybe the key pain points that will disappear from the crypto, or where are we heading?
I would say like right now in the current market conditions, I expect like a lot of people to actually use this kind of like calm area to build a lot of stuff, which we see a lot of like development happening and a lot of collaboration, because also like this kind of like financial situation is right now an ideal setup to live up to the values of Web3 to actually collaborate. No one needs to build their own stuff if there's already a solution out there. And I think like we will see a lot of collaboration, which will like also like lead to a lot of traction in the next bull run. And then we might be in a good position also to unlock mass adoption, because on the other side we are right now also seeing like a lot of like legislations, whether they are good or bad, but they are providing like some sense of like legal certainty. And we will see like new players leveraging this kind of legal certainty to also offer crypto services. And this is also something what I'm excited about and also trying to get like more active on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It was a fantastic chat and very insightful. I learned a ton. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.